rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe. We're unstoppable, powerful, enough to beat the odds. If you love me, you will see the flames inside of me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Seduce. We're just gonna continue because I don't care anymore. I quit YouTube. That was the worst introduction I've ever done. Okay, where the hell are we? Where? I have 220, but the same thing because I remember accidentally saving twice. And yep. As soon as I arrived at the library to train, I stopped when I heard Diana's voice erupt from it.
Where is the flower?
I believe you were already informed as to what happened to it.
Do not tell me you are blind to its significance.
I peeked into the room, confused as to what was going on. Diana, with a face full of irritated anger, leaned against the mantel of the fireplace as Shadow poured over his scrolls, as she usually did, but he didn't even look at Diana as he spoke, disinterested in the topic of the conversation.
It wasn't needed for the gate spell, so it was deemed unnecessary. It was tossed out as a result of that judgment.
You do realize that flower is one of very few out there in this plane, correct?
And this should bother me. Why?
I could practically cut through the tension in the air with a knife. The way they spoke to each other spoke volumes of their disdain for one another. Why was that the case, though? They were working for the same cause. Dan almost snarled with surprise to me.
It should bother you, because as consequence of your thoughtless action, I am putting your scouts in charge of finding another.
Ha ha, you got yelled at.
And why would I allow this?
Because she's the leader of the rebellion and you have no choice. And she can do that. I watched as a dark purple and black flame slowly emanated from Diana's body, causing Shadow to look over, straighten up, and take in the sight.
Because while you are their commanding officer, I am the head of this entire rebellion, and my orders outrank yours.
Got a snarky comment for that one, Shadow. Diana glared hard at Shadow, but I could feel the intensity of her glare from the doorway, making a hard shiver run up my spine. Where did Diana come? I almost said Damien. Where did this Diana come from? I recognized her tone, but didn't want to imagine this was the real her. As Shadow finally sighed, the tension died a bit.
As you wish. Another will be found without delay.
Diana's aura faded as she let out a sigh, calming down from her angry display. Something was wrong with how Diana presented herself. Still, she altered her tone.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Shadow only stared coldly at Diana as she pushed herself away from the fireplace and walked towards the door, panicked to be found out for eavesdropping. I stepped out of my hiding spot as if I had just arrived, looking into the room. Hello, wasn't listening at all. What's up, guys? Diana stopped at the sight of me, but closed her eyes and continued walking, arching around me to get by.
Excuse me.
You're excused. Fucking fruit fly, I swear. As I watched as Diana left before walking into the library, now concerned.
You know, you are a terrible spy.
Shut the fuck up! Huh? I looked at Shadow, realizing he knew that I had been listening into what had happened, and grimaced crap over the back of my head, trying to calm myself of embarrassed nerves racing in my head. Sorry, I was curious about what was happening.
It's nothing to be concerned with, just a waste of time, really. I expect you not to do that again. Do you understand?
Yes, sir! Yes, sir! I've never actually seen your pants. Wow, look at those. I'm curious, though. Fucking fruit fly right in front of my face! Get out of here! I pressed my lips into a fine line. I want to know what the hell went on. Why was Shadow keeping it to himself? I straightened up and resolved myself in front of him. I want to know what flowers she was talking about. Shadow looked over and raised an unamused eyebrow at me.
Didn't I make myself clear? It's nothing to be concerned with.
Why can't I know?
Because it's not your place to know, human.
Eh.
Remember, you are only here until the Demon Lord is slain. Nothing you do here will matter in the long term. and it is worthless to investigate further.
You suck, you know that? I will have you know, last route, I became queen of this place! I ruled you, what's up? I suddenly became agitated. Was he serious right now? Why was he even training at the spot? He was acting high and mighty, as if I had a surefire way to beat the Demon Lord. As if he had a surefire way of beating the Demon Lord already! At my angered face, Shadow let out a small chuckle and turned back to his scrolls. You are such a dick.
You're dismissed. I'm no longer interested in training you.
Why can't we have teachers like this in schools? Like, alright, I'm bored of you people, get out. What? I stared dumbfounded. What the hell? Where did this come from? As I stared, I felt my conscience suddenly become relieved. You know what? Screw him. He was an arrogant ass. I didn't have to take his attitude. I was fine on my own. I glared and turned on my heel. Fine. With that, I left the room, ready to train on my own with my own abilities. What the fuck? What? No. 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 Fuck, I just saved. Good thing I have two. No. No. No, we're not doing that. We're just gonna leave it alone. Yes, sir. We're leaving it alone. I don't want to fucking die at the end of this because I didn't get my proper training. If I kept going and got to the end, it'd be like, okay, you're dead because you didn't get proper training. Screw that. You can't go back. Oh, fuck you two then. It was better not to question it for now. I would learn eventually, but if Shadow wasn't going to tell me now, there was no way I'd be able to force the answer out. I like the kind of irony she gives me when I choose again. Shadow looked to me, observing me for a moment before nodding and turning from the table.
Well then, shall we begin?
Yeah, yes, sir! I will not disrespect you, even though you're a fucking arrogant asshole! I nodded, prepared to face whatever he had in store for me. What took me off guard was someone coming up suddenly behind me and placing a knife in my throat.
Don't.
Okay. I froze. What did she mean? Shadow crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow.
Shama, a little too early.
I didn't say you're cute, goddammit. As the person released me and moved the knife away from my throat, I turned with a hard glare to see the cloaked woman who had been talking to Diana before. She obediently looked to Shadow.
I apologize, sir.
Back to your place.
Shama bowed, quickly formed herself into a shadow, fading into the ground. Fading into the ground, yeah. I instantly began to follow suit, but Shadow cleared his throat.
Pay no mind to that.
No, you can't just say that. What was that? I had a knife held up my throat without any warning. Yeah, well, war. I was not prepared, and while that may have been some messed up point about war and not being prepared, Shadow was watching and could have stopped it. The only thing that ran through my mind was how my body suddenly became filled with adrenaline. Shadow stared blankly at the question at hand.
A misfired trap.
I think I just...
Shama is meant to surprise attack you after I teach you your next lesson. Obviously there was a miscalculation, but that'll be fixed and done properly after the lesson is given.
I understood, wanting to be ready for the next time it happened, but something caught my attention, drawing my focus away from his words. As I stared at Shadow, I faintly noticed his hair swaying slightly from the air on his head. From the air on his head. You know, you would have thought I read that wrong, but I didn't. What the? There was no wind in this room. How was it moving? I focused my attention on his hair, wondering what it was doing as Shadow raised an eyebrow at me.
What are you staring at?
Your locks. I shook my head and avoided it. Just staring at him, like, squinting her eyes, like, huh. Why was I so focused on his hair? It was hair! But it's beautiful. Look at that luscious mane. Ooh, is it L'Oreal? Is it L'Oreal? Because you're worth it, Shadow. Yeah. As I thought that, however, his ponytail suddenly began to move, like a hand tapping its finger on Shadow's shoulder. What? As I thought that, however, his ponytail suddenly began to move, like a hand tapping its finger on Shadow's shoulder and on his waist. What the fuck does that mean? Whoa! I jumped back, pointing at his hair, getting a smoke smile from Shadow. Why is your hair doing that? Oh my god, it's moving! Oh! It's moving like a hand! Why did it take me so long to actually understand what the fuck that meant? Oh my gosh, okay. It's like, God. What is that character from Zelda? Legend of Zelda, the cat thing with the... I can't remember her name. Cat thing with the hair! Or Muse from Tales of Exilia. Just leave it alone. As Shadow suddenly glared at me, I tensed up.
Are you more interested in the hair or in your training?
Honestly, your hair. Is that why it looks like that? Is that why it looks like a fucking hand? Okay.
Are you more interested in
Sorry, I scrolled down. I kept my mouth shut. I wasn't gonna get anywhere by getting distracted, just like just like with my curiosity with Diana. If this was another lesson, then Shadow was teaching me properly. Still, my curiosity pecked wildly at me, wanting me to desperately ask about it. Oh, my mouse stopped moving there for a second. Controlling fear. Ah! Shadow raised an eyebrow. I was fearful that he was going to dismiss me afterwards, but I desperately needed to know about the hair. It was just too interesting to ignore now. The ends of Shadow's hair was gently moved up in the air, waving their fingers at me like they were dancing over the piano keys. That is so fucking creepy!
Let me ask you this, human. What would you be willing to trade your soul
Pizza.
for?
Endless pizza. You feel me, Shadow? You feel me? My soul? I stared at Shadow, slightly dumbfounded. He traded his soul for his hair. You know, a girl's hair is her life, or in this case, her soul, his soul. Sorry. Now that my focus was on it, the strands of his hair were pitch black. Not even light could pierce them, or highlight the strands. How was that possible? But it is highlighted, like, right there around his face. Shadow lifted a hand up and ran his fingers through his front ponytail, combing through the darkness.
For me, the answer was simple. To control fear.
So fear is your hair? That made absolutely no sense. How does your hair make you control fear? Okay. By the way, look at those tiny ass chairs. It's just so tiny. Shadow gazed into my eyes before sighing and lowering his hand. However, as he did, his own shadow slowly rose behind him as... I'll just imagine something funny like, okay, what if fear is his hair? What if it can detach from his head and in the middle of a war, he commands his fear to go and do something, and meanwhile he's in the war, just bald. Shadow, what my fear is doing something, don't worry about it. As Shadow gazed in my eyes before sighing and lowering his hand. However, as he did, his own shadow slowly rose behind him as if it were being itself and stood silently. That's creepy. The shadow's hair, however, danced around him, revealing not 2, but at least 10 hands splaying from his head. That is so fucking creepy. Waving through the air like and snake-like movements, I felt frightened just staring at it. The shadow quickly... Get it? The shadow, huh? Quickly detached itself from its master and began to sprint around the room, taking out every light source and completely covering the room in darkness. What the? It was pitch black in the room. Not even the light of the hallway could be seen. I couldn't spot Shadow or a shadow anywhere. That's so weird to say. Causing me to stand still in utter fear. As its hands began to crawl along my body... Great. And wrap around my arms and torso, I screamed and began to flail, feeling them completely coil around me like snakes. Soon I was trapped in the tight embrace of Shadow.
To completely control darkness is to control fear. To control fear is to control life itself. It isn't enough to simply hold that much power in 2 hands.
I get it! Let me go, please! I was frightened to the core. I didn't want to be in this room anymore. I know it didn't say room, but it kind of rhymed. I didn't want to be in this anymore. I was excited about learning about dark magic, but this had quickly become a power I was fearful of. Stop smiling at me, you bastard. At last, a light reappeared in the room, and Shadow stood before me, arms crossed with a small smirk on his face, his 2 ponytails settled into his body, resting from what they have done. As I no longer felt tied up, I shook out my arms and wrapped them around myself, trying to calm down.
Are there any more questions you intend to waste my time with?
No. I became fearful of this man. He was my trainer, but at the same time, he wasn't afraid to make me fear him. It may have just been darkness, but I'm surrounded by darkness right now, and I think like I'm being haunted. That was scary. It may have just been darkness, but what if he pulled a knife on me like Shamma did? I almost said Shannon. Like Shannon! I would have been killed in the cover of darkness without any way to fight back. I shook my head, letting out a shaky breath. No, sir. I had to pay attention. No more distractions. I had to focus on the task at hand, or else I would open myself for another unpleasant surprise. Sorry, I'll pay attention. Shadow nodded, rolling his shoulders and forming a pure black dagger in his hand. As he looked to me, I understood what he wanted me to do. Having watched his hand carefully, he was not one to actually talk to me through anything. I focused on my hand, trying to imagine a dagger forming within it, and rounded my hand to form a shadow across my palm, knowing that I needed the darkness to help give it shape slowly, but eventually the hilt of the dagger formed in my hand, allowing me to grasp it. The blade quickly jutted out of the end, finally completing its formation, before I lowered it to my side and looked up to Shadow.
Become aware of your surroundings. Your opponent is using the shadow plane, so you're at a disadvantage. But you can still defend yourself, as long as you pay attention.
That was why my attention was so important. I mentally wanted to slap myself for letting my curiosity take hold of me. Now was not the time to mope. However, I had to focus. I nodded before looking around, trying to figure out how I was going to find Shamma and defend myself before she got me and killed me. I wasn't sure how shadows got around in the other plane, but I wasn't going to find out. I looked to the ground, not seeing anything pass by me, then looked to the light source. If I remembered anything from the day before, it was that you needed to control the light to distract your target to protect your shadow from being used. I held my breath, trying to focus on the light versus hearing my breathing whisper through the room. Okay. I wasn't going to let her take advantage of me. Suddenly, I faintly hear a flame whip to the side, causing me to turn and see Shamma rush at me with her knife. I quickly parried, pushing her back.
Good. Again.
As quickly as she had come, Shamma vanished once again to hide. I could tell I was going to get a workout. Soon enough, she began to attack in plain sight. Turned the room dark, even used my shadow against me. I had to maneuver around it all. I continued to defend off her attacks for an entire day until I was excused to my room for the night. Sigh. I slowly padded back to my room, tired from the day. I needed rest, and I needed the comfort of my bed, and Matthew's arms around me. As I walked in, however, I took in a sight I did not expect to see. Great, now what? Matthew held Simon in full-body chokehold. Let go of him! I know, I don't like him. I know he's creepy, but you don't have to kill him. Crushing his body like a stress ball and glaring hard into his beady red eyes.
I'm gonna rip you apart!
Matthew! So you're the Andari of this? Okay, gotcha! Matthew! I rushed in and grabbed Matthew's hands, prying them apart and letting Simon slip from between them onto the ground. Simon let out a scream before running out of the room. Matthew, still for some reason enraged, took a step to follow him before I slammed my hand onto his shoulders.
Get back here!
Matthew, stop! I gripped hard onto Matthew's shoulder, causing him to turn at me and letting me grab his other shoulder. As I got a look of his eyes, I gasped at the sight. His eyes were full of rage and anger as he panted in place. Whatever Simon did really made him go off the edge, or something was influencing him again. I suddenly became afraid, shaking underneath his gaze. Every fiber of my body completely began to spaz out as I became locked in angry glare. What was happening to me? I opened my mouth to try to speak, but not a sound would dare come out of my vocal cords. It was like I was too frightened to press him or stop him. Are you back to reality, Why do they never wear a shirt in this room? The game's like, hey, little fans of us. As Matthew continued to pant out of the air and stare at me, something in his mind slowly melted, causing his eyes to slowly widen in realization of what he had done and what he was about to do to Simon. The strain told my body faded away as his muscles relaxed. Trying to breathe and regain control of whatever had clouded his judgment. As it finally became apparent that he had returned to sanity, Matthew's eyes began to droop in sadness.
What am I doing?
I'd like to know. Matthew pulled away from me, placing his hands between us and stepped back, staring at me in deep regret. I tried to step forward to try to comfort him, but he raised a hand to stop me, walking slowly over to the bed and sitting down, grasping his head.
Something happened to me. I don't know what.
I frowned as I slowly moved and sat next to him. In shame, Matthew covered his face with his hands and curled over his knees, digging his fingers into his forehead.
I keep hearing my mother's voice telling me to come home and save her. Whenever I do, I completely lose control of myself. I can't remember what I did or why I did it, but I always manage to do something wrong.
I grimaced, remembering the random attack on Diana. I placed my hand on his shoulder as he shuddered and shook his head.
I gotta fix this. There's gotta be some way to stop it from happening to me.
We could talk about it with the others, maybe that'll work. Matthew. It was painful to see him struggling, still I couldn't understand why he had to fight this alone. Why not go to the others for help? Matthew let out a sigh and slumped his shoulders further.
And let them help me? Like they've always done?
Oh, I see, it's a pride thing. Okay. As Matthew turned to me, I could practically see the shame in his eyes as he spoke.
Every time I was in trouble, they'd always come and help. Every time I do something, I'm treated like a damn kid.
Well... Matthew turned his head away and gritted his teeth, forming fists and laying them on his knees, tightening them in aggravation.
There's a reason why I didn't ask them to help with the wedding. I don't want them babying me and doing everything like I'm some sort of stupid moron who needs everything done for him. I want to do this on my own. I can figure this out without their help. I'm not even the youngest, but they still treat me like I am, even Damien. I don't want that anymore.
Fuck Damien, am I right? Hey! I feel bad for people who are just like, why does she hate Damien so much? He's my favorite. And I'm sitting here like, there is no clear reason. I just do. Now, I don't hate Jonah. I hate Damien. I hate the character Damien. There you go. I can't tolerate him. It's just I was speechless. Did Matthew really feel that kind of pressure from his brothers? My mind went back to the first day I'd met them, how Eric treated Matthew like a little boy, despite Matthew being close to his age. As the grimace of realization appeared on my lips, Matthew let out a shaky sigh.
I can't ask for their help. I'm sorry.
If you die, it ain't my fault, so... I assume I already know what this is. Yeah, there's like so little to Matthew. Holy crap. I felt terrible for Matthew. He definitely acted like a kid, but it seemed like only I remembered that he wasn't one. After all, I had been with this man for over 2 years of my life. I wrapped my arms around him, hugging me to him, making him gasp in surprise. What do you mean, huh? I'm comforting you. I'm your fiance. Where's the word I want? I buried my face in his shoulder, slightly apologizing to him for the soft kiss on his neck. Slowly, Matthew wrapped his arms around me as well, taking in a breath and relaxing once more within my arms. A peaceful moment of silence passed between us before Matthew softly pulled away and looked me in the eyes.
I don't understand why you like me at all, you know?
You know, if it was Damien saying that, okay, you know what? I just gotta get off Damien. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. What? Confused, I stared into Matthew's eyes, trying to find the origin of where his statement came from. Matthew, however, took my hands and grasped them in his, looking down at them.
I love you so much. But I'm not mature like James or the others. I don't understand at all how someone like me could be remotely likable.
You're Shoda, that's why. Stop. I glared, not wanting him to degrade himself. As he looked back up at me, he flinched at my stare, but I needed to get him to see that I loved him and cared for him for every part of him. Okay. Even that little pinky finger. It didn't matter that he wasn't like his brothers. In fact, I'm glad you're not like your brothers, because that'd be weird if you acted like Eric. Just saying. He was mine and I loved him. I squeezed his hand, locking his gaze to mine. I love you for you, Matthew. I don't care what your brothers act like or how you're not like them. I don't care. I fell in love with you, not them. Well, I did, but that's a different story. Matthew remained silent, staring deep into my eyes and taking in everything that I was saying with a broken but hopeful gaze. He really cared about me, and didn't want to hurt me, but I didn't want him to hurt either. Whatever this is, whatever thing is trying to control you, will fix this. But don't you dare degrade yourself like that. Yes. At last, I leaned forward and pressed my lips to his, locking his to mine in a loving kiss. Matthew stared wide-eyed before very slowly closing his eyes and melting into the lip lock. Lip lock. That is a saying I want to hear more. I wanted to show him how strong and wonderful he was. I fell in love with him, not for just his childish side, but how he made me feel but how he made me feel with every part of him. What the hell does that mean? He was very much an adult when I was locked in his arms, and I drowned in his kisses constantly. I was so lucky to have him as mine, and I wanted to remind him of that with every part of me, mind, body, and soul. Yeah, I knew it! I knew we were gonna get... Wow! Alright.
You ready for some sex?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. I slowly slid my legs over slap. Yep, that... Great start to this, yes! Straddling his hips and made the kiss between us deeper. Relishing, good God, relish. Put some relish on the hot dog. That sounds so weird considering what we're doing right now. And the feeling that we're burning between us, Matthew slowly drew his hands up my side and wrapped them around me, hugging me to his chest, almost possessively, and making me gasp against his lips. He was getting the idea, and I was happy that my message was clear enough to understand. Well, you wrap your legs around him all sexy like, I don't think he could miss the message. He was mine and I was his. We would support and hold on to each other forever, and nothing would separate us. I got sneezed so badly. My clothes were slowly stripped off my body. Well, that's good. Matthew taking his time and looking at every inch of my body. As it became exposed, I would shyly show him, but happily allow him to indulge and to ravish me as he desired. If he craved it, there we go. A flash of gold passed over his eyes as he finally grasped the back of my neck and kissed me passionately. I feel like I haven't done a sex scene in a while. Now it's getting kind of weird. I couldn't help but moan against his lips, feeling his free hand dance around each curve of my body as his enthrallment slowly eased itself into my core, warming my soul in love and need. Oh God! Oh. That scared me! I need a tissue! I can't reach my tissues! Oh my God, that scared me. I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting it. Oh, the jump scares in this game are ridiculous. What is this face even? This is not a sexy face. This is a please pet me face. What is this? I couldn't stop myself from grinning against the incubus. Not with that. I can't read it with that face. I'm literally covering the screen right now. Needing him to undress himself and let us make love like I desired. It's hard to read while I'm covering it, so... Like we both desired, Matthew slightly smirked against my lips before turning us over and staring at me.
You're so beautiful. You know that?
Yeah, my hand's pretty cute, too. I felt my body warm at his words, making me distracted as Matthew began to run his hands all over my body, leaving no inch of skin unexplored for unconquered by his fingers or lips. Why did you draw this picture, though? This is not a sexy picture. This is one that scared me and then went, aw, wait a second. This is a sex scene. This picture is not allowed here. That's like putting Hamster Sam from the End of the Last route here. It doesn't work. Where am I? There we go. My arm's getting tired. I arched back, pressing my head. Okay, I can't cover it anymore. I arched back, pressing my head against the pillow and beneath my head, and let out a living sigh and moan with each pleasurable touch he placed on me. This was truly heaven. That pure and innocent soul. Yep. I was so lost that I barely noticed him stripping as well and hovering over me, finally allowing us to become one. As we did, the world around me became lost. I could only see Matthew, and he could only see me. We would become lost in each other's eyes. We wrapped each other in pleasure and love, climbing through our carnal ecstasy and chanting each other's name. Like two prayers in sweet harmony. Oh, okay. My hands guided themselves around Matthew's body, feeling the slight sweet layered over his soft skin as I dragged my nails over his back. I really hope you don't have sharp nails, because I have sharp nails, and if I did that, oh, imagine the scars. Like, I was at work today, and I accidentally scratched my arm, and I started bleeding, so... Girls with long nails, be careful what you do. From the pleasureful goodness hiss that erupted from him. I could tell that he enjoyed that and would pay back in kind. Our love-making soon became rapid and heated, and you could hear James sigh from the other room. James is trying to read his fucking books like, oh, they're doing it again! Fucking old married couple in there. Where am I? Rapid and heated, unrelenting at its crescendo towards a beautiful and hot climax. We drove through... They're acting like it's a musical. We drove through together, uncaring of who would hear our cries. Once again, James. Ugh. Sam's like, shut the fuck up! Damien can just read our minds right now. Oh, God! Oh! Like, okay, Damien's like, I wonder what Sexto and Matthew are doing. So he goes to read our mind. The horrified look comes on his face like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Uncaring of who would hear our cries and screams of love before slowly easing into a gentle, feather-like afterglow. I got something in my eye, it's driving me nuts. Matthew and I held on to each other, lost within our embrace between us, and euphoric. In our emotions, there's something in both of my eyes. I was so happy to have him in my arms, causing me to pull him closer to me and cuddle against him. Matthew laughed a bit before kissing me softly, nuzzling my forehead with his. I'm so sick of things being in my eyes. I love you, Matthew.
I love you too.
You better. Damn, so scary. We remained there after taking in the sounds of our synchronized breathing and letting our hearts eventually beat as one. We would get through this. We would. Sleeping that night filled us with determination for the next day. I was hopeful, rooting that everything was going to be alright. Of course, not everything turns out the way we want. I'm gonna end it here, guys, because, fuck it, why not? See you guys in the next episode.
Yeah.